What's up, YouTube? This is Tien bringing you kind of the conclusion or advanced portion of our Firebird's Meteor channeling wizard. I'll just quickly go over the skills which have changed since our last video. On our left click, we have Familiar Spark Flint, which is a fire ability. And then we have Arcane Torrent Flame Ward, Meteor Shower, Magic Weapon Deflection, Teleport Calamity, and Storm Armor Scramble. Our passives are Power Hungry, Galvanizing Ward, Illusionist, and Unwavering Will. Our three sources of fire damage are no longer Magic Weapon Ignite, but we use Familiar Spark Flint, Flame Ward, and Meteor. So once we deal damage with three different fire abilities, our Firebirds kind of goes into effect. Our Storm Armor, we're no longer using Power of the Storm because we're using a belt that's going to kind of increase our arcane power, or allow us to use more arcane power. You'll notice a lack of Unstable Anomaly on our bar as well. I think Galvanizing Ward is the most flexible one here. I think I was messing around with Blur, Unstable Anomaly, and Astral Presence as some options there, but I really like this particular setup. I'll talk a little bit about why we use Power Hungry over Audacity when I go over my gear, which is right now. Let me move my cam real quick so you guys can see what's in my cube. Still the same stuff in the cube here: Grand Vizier, Nilfer's Boast, and Halo of Carini. These two are very offensive, but before we used to have Convention of Elements and we were wearing the Halo of Carini, but now we have Halo of Carini and Unity to give us toughness. And it's one of those things where you can actually have Unity in the cube and Halo of Carini on you. And so, just wear your best one and then put one into the cube. It's worth noting that the Halo of Carini goes from 60 to 80%, but when you put it in the cube, you always get 80%. So that's kind of why I like having it in the cube. Plus, Unity always rolls with crit. Ours didn't roll particularly well, but that's what we got there. Okay, let me talk about our gear, and I'll kind of go in depth into what you want on the gear. We're using a pretty bad Death Wish, honestly, and I shouldn't have that resource cost reduction roll, but I was a little bit low on mats, so I couldn't really re-roll. You can see here we're really low on reusable parts, but I think I would prefer to have like % damage in that spot, and we would prefer to have this ancient, obviously, and we would prefer to have higher on our passive. We are still using a 6-piece Firebirds here, and on our helm, I think instead of Vitality, if we could get Meteor damage, we would want that. On our shoulders, I think this is actually optimal. We would prefer Ancient or more Intelligence on this, but it's pretty good. If you're really min-maxing, the secondary you're after is Physical Resistance. Our gloves are pretty good, actually. They're Ancient, they have crit damage. Area damage is the only one I'm not super sure about. I think maybe you could get away with something else there, like maybe Vitality. But area damage does matter for our build and does help quite a bit. These are all the rolls that you want on your Firebird's chest. I think maybe the secondary could be better. You could get reduced damages or maybe physical resistance at Arcane Res. Herdbrash's Binding. On here we have all the rolls we want. Int, Fight, Life Armor. The secondary isn't great. And the passive on this does range, but honestly, it doesn't matter that much. We stay at high arcane power throughout the build anyways, even with that low 52% roll. Our pants are great. Again, the secondary could be better, but you want the primaries to be int, fight, and armor. Our boots, not super optimal. We don't like life regeneration in this spot, but we would prefer that it be like flat armor or something like that. We're an intelligence class, so we get a ton of int, which means a lot of all resistance. And so the damage mitigation that we're missing the most is armor because we don't have a lot of strength and dex. In our amulet's probably our worst piece. We would prefer that flat damage there to be like crit chance, and we prefer our crit hit damage to be higher. But that's not what we got. Our bracers are pretty good. That secondary goes from 75 to 100. We would prefer closer to 100. We prefer it to be ancient, but all other things considered, it rolled pretty well. I already talked about the Unity. Yeah, naturally it rolls with crit and crit damage. We rolled off the intelligence for a socket here, so we have a pretty good Unity. The Etch Sigil, probably one of the more important pieces. You prefer Ancient because it gives you a higher damage range. That increased damage against elites could probably be something different. That's probably the most flexible one. I think you could actually roll that into Meteor damage, which would be good. The 125 is actually the minimum. We would prefer it be at the max out at 150, but that's not what we got. I have some alternatives down here. If you didn't want to use Ashignar's Blood Bracers, which has synergy with our Magic Weapon Deflection, which has synergy with our Galvanizing Ward, you could switch into a build that uses Halo of Karini and Ancient Parthenon Defenders. It would be a more in-your-face build. So you would use probably Audacity there. You would have to switch to Ice Armor. I like Crystallize. And then, you would use the Halo and you use the APDs. And it'd be just like it'd play the same way and just a little bit more in your face. I'll talk a little bit about our legendary gems right now. You can see here we're using a rank 52 Bane of the Trapped, 52 Teguk, and a level 69 Zaystone of Vengeance. Because we are doing the ranged power hungry version, we do use Zaystone of Vengeance. If we were doing the in-your-face version, this would be Bane of the Powerful instead. Last things to talk about, the purple gem in the helm, and then all yellow gems everywhere else for more intelligence. I'm going to go ahead and bring up a video of our clear here. And as I kind of talk about some of the play tips that we got going on, actually, while this is going, let me actually talk about our Paragon here. So because we have 12 move speed on our boots, we only need 13 here. And then the rest goes into int. For this, we go crit chance, crit damage, attack speed, and then CDR last. We go armor, resist all, life, and then life regen. And in here, resource cost reduction, area damage, life on hit, and then gold find. You can see we're only Paragon 653, but we did manage to get a GR92 down. And what I got going on in the background is the clear that we did earlier on stream, literally 10 minutes ago. And as it's kind of going, I do want to talk about our gameplay. So there's a lot of little things about this build that aren't super obvious to people just by reading the set bonus. If you do want kind of more of the obvious things, you can check our beginner video, which was right before this one. But let me talk about some of the finer things in this build. Like, I guess the very first thing we'll talk about is Ignite Leashing. So one thing that you might notice right here is that I'm at 20 stack Firebirds here on the bottom. And this 20 stack Firebirds is because I have an elite ignited on my screen. Well, I just dropped it there. I think we either killed the elite or ran away from it. I think we actually killed it in this case. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm running around looking for an elite, kind of trying to ignite some stuff during my running around here. And because our familiar Spark Flint is our third source of fire damage, you have to get really close to ignite the mob. And so maybe when I find an elite here, you guys will see what I'm talking about. But basically, I'll teleport right on top of them. And I have a bunch of damage reduction because of my Unity, because I keep attacking and I keep deflection up. But yeah, I try and ignite the mob. This part of the rift was actually really awkward. I remember just getting lost in the middle of this map. My navigation skills aren't super great. But yeah, so what we did is, what you have to do is ignite that elite. And then once you ignite that elite, you kind of drag it around the map and you kill some stuff. So here comes an elite here. You can see me checking the map because I'm like, oh gosh, where am I supposed to run after I do this? But you can see I have the 20 stack Firebirds there. I ignited the elite. And typically what I'll do is I'll drag it around the map as I clear all of the trash. And that's just how these Firebirds builds play. I know that's kind of very uncommon. Most builds like hunt elites and then stay there and kill the elite until it's dead, pick up the purple orbs. That's not really how Firebirds builds play. We need our 3 sources of fire damage on that guy, and then we'll drag him around and we'll start clearing all the trash. Some other stuff I want to talk about in terms of positioning. So like I said before, to ignite them, you have to get really close and in their face to allow your familiar Spark Flint to get that source of damage on. But then otherwise, you want to be keeping your distance. So we use Power Hungry, we use Zaystone of Vengeance, and we use Galvanizing Ward, which resets a huge shield on top of us in order to get in order to be more tanky. So all of those things want you to be further away from the mob. So you got to get close, you ignite it. You'll see me do it here on these blue mobs. I'm igniting these blue mobs, but then now I'm keeping my distance, trying to get the most out of my passives. You'll see me teleport right there into the Oculus ring that my Merc created. It's worth noting that my Templar is using a cannot die token and a Unity as well, because we need the 50% damage reduction basically that provides. And then the Merc is also using an Oculus ring to create those areas of focus power. Another thing I want to talk about is keeping up Taeguk. I'm not super experienced with this build, but you keep up Taeguk by channeling all the time. I get this question on stream, like when do you press Meteor? When do you use Flame Ward? I'm almost always using Flame Ward, and only during the boss or during tough yellows will I try and weave in manually casted meteors. You might see some versions of the build that have other spenders like Black Hole or maybe Blizzard Apocalypse or maybe Mammoth Hydra or something like that. I don't use any of those because I want my only spender to be cast off of Etch Sigil to be Meteor. And so in order to do that, basically you need that third source of fire damage. We chose Familiar. In our previous build, we chose Magic Weapon Ignite. But yeah, here you can see I don't do a good job of evading the mobs, but I have a yellow that's ignited, and I'm just killing all of this trash, including the blue mob here. I think I make a decision to grab a power pylon here coming up. But yeah, definitely keep up Taeguk. It's important for the build. It gives you damage reduction, just one of the many things that gives you damage reduction. We have so much defense with this build with our... I'll just talk about, I guess, all of our different defensive layers. So we have Taeguk, which is one of them. We have the Unity. We have Halo of Karini, which wants you to be at range also. If you hit something with your Storm Armor 15 yards away, then you'll get like 80% damage reduction. That was our thing in the cube. On top of that, we have our Traveler's Pledge Compass Rose, the Endless Walk set. Every time we're moving, we can get up to 50% damage reduction. So just a lot of different sources of damage reduction. The Firebirds itself gives you 60% damage reduction after you have something ignited. So all of these things kind of multiply together to make you extremely, extremely tanky. You can see here I'm doing a GR92 with not that high a Paragon, and our gear was not super good. I think our weapon is really, really bad. I could probably do a higher Greater Rift if I could farm myself a better Death Wish. I've been using that Hope of Cain recipe, that third recipe, to try and upgrade swords, but there's just so many different ones that haven't been able to get a good Death Wish yet. Anyways, more play tips. I want to talk a little bit about mob types and when to skip mobs. I talk about it a lot while I'm doing the Rift, kind of vocalizing my thoughts like, okay, here I'm going to stay on this map because there's a lot of trash here. There's an elite that we can ignite. My plan is to ignite the elite. You can see me getting close there to get the ignite off, but then killing all of this other trash. So I'm killing all of these grotesques. I'm killing all of these zombies. And the reason I like these mobs is because they're melee, they're slow, really easy to kill, and they give good progression. It's kind of an experience thing, knowing which mobs give good progression, which ones will kill you, which ones won't kill you. It really depends on your player skill, your experience. Like maybe you're a good enough player to handle Frozen Thunderstorm, Spear Chuckers, and Ghosts or whatever, but like whatever you've played around with your character and your ping and your gear setup, what can you handle and what you can't handle will dictate when you skip and don't skip. So that's kind of my short answer to that. I know personally that I always try and kill those slow melee mobs and avoid those really fast jump on you type mobs like Winged Assassins, Lacuni Huntresses, that kind of thing. But again, it's going to be different for every player. You might be really good at handling those type of mobs, or you have like a good trick for those. I haven't developed anything for that quite yet. I also want to talk about good maps versus bad maps. So these previous two maps were actually kind of bad layouts in terms of, what am I looking for when I'm looking for a good map? I'm looking for a nice open map, something like Festering Woods, Battlefields, just anything where I can group and dodge abilities and create density easily. This map in particular I really don't like because of the shock towers. You could see me there. I was focusing down a shock tower after I ignited this blue mob. It comes from player experience again. Like maybe you have really good experiences when you play in the sewers or you play in this shock tower map, right? But like those, from my experience, haven't been good maps for me just because I don't have a good way to move around. So yeah, I generally only like maybe 25% or so of the maps in here. You can see me struggling to get this speed pylon here, and we're getting close to the boss. I think I use this speed pylon to just try and skip and find an elite. You notice all those mobs that I skipped are actually really good progression. I think I ran down there hoping to find an elite, and now I'm like, okay, this guy might be enough. I think you'll see me hover over how much percentage is left in my rift, and I remember vocalizing, okay, I'm at 95%. It should be enough if I kill this this yellow. So you'll see me here. I ignited that guy, and now I'm just rounding up all of the mobs like I was talking about, trying to create density, right? Here the only things I have to play around are arcane orbs on the ground. The Blazing Guardian elite himself lays little areas of patches of fire. And then the grotesques blowing up are pretty much the only things that can kill me at this point. Otherwise, I'm pretty tanky. So yeah, I just avoid those arcane orbs, avoid the Blazing Guardian, what he's throwing down, and then after we kill the grotesque, make sure you don't stand in the death explosions. This run was pretty clean. We actually didn't die the entire time, so you'll see at the very end, I'm going to get my full amount of gem level ups here. But yeah, I can see the 95% popping up, and I'm like, okay, if I can kill this yellow, and that was dangerous. I just tanked an arcane beam, but I'm like, if I can kill this yellow here, and he's by himself, so we're getting all that no first boast damage, great. So we killed him, got all the purple orbs, and it was enough for the boss. You can just see here the power of the defense of the build. We have over 2 minutes left for the boss, and we feel pretty comfortable just because we had been doing some 91s and 90s up until this point, and we know that it takes us about 1.5 minutes to kill a boss like Rhyme, who's, I would say, one of the easier bosses. He doesn't summon any adds, so we don't have to worry about like anything running at us. It's just him. He's by himself. He's a fairly low health boss as well. In the very beginning of this fight, we actually tanked, right there we're tanking the blizzards that are falling down. We tank his little triple ice explosion here. But yeah, we know how much damage we can do, so we're pretty pleased, in the stream. I'm like, get the camera, Mom. We're going to do this one. You do want to keep range. I'm doing kind of a bad job of not keeping range on him because we do want to have our Zay's Stone of Vengeance, and we want our Power Hungry passive here. But, I think we're in the clear. We got plenty of time left to kill this guy. And we get him down right here, which was good enough for rank 220 at the time. A GR 92 about 3 or 4 days into the season here. So that was our clear. Hopefully you guys learned something in this video, and see you guys in the next one.